Welcome to the Veriff Voices podcast, a collection of conversations with leaders from across the industry, sharing tips and valuable insight into shaping the future of online identity. This podcast is brought to you by the people of Veriff, rebuilding trust in the digital world.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of Veriff Voices, the podcast where we talk about fraud, compliance, technology, and all things related to digital identity and returning trust to the internet. My name is Chris Hooper. I'm Director of Brand here at Veriff, and joining me today is Niklas Kagevik, who is Head of Product at Tele2, a telco company based in Sweden, who service millions of customers across a number of different countries. First of all, Niklas, thanks for joining us. Welcome. I know you're a very busy man, so I'd appreciate you taking the time to talk with us today. Do you just want to start by giving us an intro to yourself, first of all, to your role, but also to Tele2 and kind of what's the USP there and where you operate and all of the sort of the big headlines?
Thank you. So my name is Niklas Kagevik, like you said, and I operate as now from Tele2 in Sweden. I've been with the company for quite some time, 15 plus years, and I've seen the evolution of Tele2. So we are a big telecoms company in Sweden, the second largest, and we, like you said, we have I think we have over 4 million customers in Sweden, and then we are having a number of million customers in Baltics as well. So we operate mainly in Sweden and Baltics, and we offer a variety of connections. So mobile is our core. About 50% of our customers are mobile customers, and therefore also many customers broadband, fixed mobile broadband, and TV streaming. So a lot of different services.
Great. Okay. What are some of the big sort of trends that we're seeing in the telco sector at the moment, particularly in the Baltics, but I mean more globally too? I mean, if there's some of the sort of the big challenges that are facing organisations like yours at the moment, what would they be? How would you sort of pinpoint what those are?
I would say for us, it has been to have our own superior network, to build out our network in Sweden and Baltics, to enable 5G, that will be later 6G. So of course, giving all customers a great chance to with high speed, they get the best connections. So the challenge around it has been, of course, that you need to do a lot of investments in your infrastructure, and then also know when to launch not. But I would say now that we have the best coverage in both Sweden and Baltics.
Yeah, great to hear. What about the? Let's talk about the sort of the intersection, if you like, between Tele2 and Veriff then, because I think that's something that's quite interesting there. What was some of the sort of the challenges that you were facing with a sort of a customer onboarding point of view, customer identification particularly, and fraud prevention before you partnered with Veriff? I mean, what were some of the things that you were seeing? Just talk us through the state of play, as it were.
Tele2 as a company have also different brands, so we operate with their multiple brands on the multiple markets. We are really big at the prepaid segment, so you can be a prepaid customer and purchase your product as you go. So we are having like a 55% market share on the prepaid segment, which makes us the leading brand in Sweden of all prepaids. So if Sweden was allowed to be anonymous as a customer, and that has been a discussion, I mean, all over Europe, if to allow it or not. And then there were a new law in Sweden that said from 2023 that we need to register all prepaid customers as well. So you could not be anonymous anymore, you must be knowing, which of course were the case already for postpaid. But for prepaid, then we started to look for, okay, what would be the best, smoothest solution to onboard and register almost 2 million customers within a fairly short time. So then we looked at both within Sweden, the internal solutions, and then across Europe, what would be a good fit for us. And we landed in like a threefolded solution. I mean, both what you could go to a physical kiosk and ID node self. So some people want to do that. But the majority of customers want to make their registration online and make it, I mean, in a few steps and preferably within less than a minute. So we had Swedish mobile live ID. That is very common if you are a Swedish citizen. But if you're not, I mean, if we have a lot of tourists and Europeans and maybe, people from the US or from Asia, one day another model back ID, and then it did a great solution for them as well. And then we found the Veriff solution that we started to look at and that we're implementing. So that's a background for it.
Yeah, that's great. And it sounds like, so there are a number of considerations there, I suppose. Obviously, the global document coverage, so you can sort of you can verify somebody no matter where they're from and what ID they have. But also, it sounds like the kind of the speediness, the smoothness of the process sounded like quite a big consideration as well. Is that fair to say, in terms of you don't want to make too much of an impact into a customer experience, I suppose?
Yes, and then so I would definitely say that. And for us, when we evaluated, it was, of course, the 32 cost for doing the onboarding, the implementation time in the calendar time, and then also the technical complexity. You want a complex service, but do it in a smooth way. And where all of those parameters were in favor of the Veriff solution. So then it was a really easy choice for us to go with the Veriff implementation.
Nice. Let's talk about that process a little bit then, because I think that's quite an important thing, I think, for people listening to this as well, is that the implementation sort of the stage of this journey, if you like, is really critical, because you want to get, the quicker you get it there, the quicker you can start to get value from it, I suppose, as well. So talk us through that just from a sort of a technical point of view, how that interaction went with the Veriff team and the Veriff solutions and so on.
So of course we met first with the pre-sales team, and then had the demo and looking at the functionality as such. Once that has been conducted, then we had the comparison with different other solutions. When we then took the decision this was in November, we said that, okay, it's a green light, let's go for this solution. Then we were up and running already in December. So less than one month of implementation time, and actually only doing it through one API. So the technical parts were, of course, that we were to implement it in our regular flow, the registration flow at Tele2. But then we only interacted with one API on your end, on the Veriff end, and then, like you said, doing the complex validation, but we didn't need to do any installation at the Tele2 premises. So overall, it was super smooth when it comes to a complex technology, but doing it in a really, really fast way. So we spent the most time on internal testing and testing together with the Veriff team. And then, of course, making sure that the customer experience in the end-to-end flow was working. Since we also offered this solution in 12 languages, we needed to really test that all parts of it were following the same kind of tonality, and making sure that the customer experience was really fast and understandable. Since a lot of our customers, at least, they're now techies, and they are definitely some older people and some that are really hard to follow instructions. So we need to be straight to the point on really simple to understand.
Yeah. I think that's the key part of it, isn't it? Is that not everybody works in tech, right? So there is a sort of a level of understanding. Certain demographics, certainly more so than others, I think, need to have that smoothness of a process just to make it as easy as possible, because there can be a lot of frustration if it goes wrong. I'm really curious about sort of how Veriff's technology kind of aligned with your own internal systems as well, because I think that's a really crucial point, especially when it comes to, I know there's very sort of strict regulations around telcos in Sweden, across the EU more generally, I suppose, but some compliance frameworks and so on. So I'm just curious how sort of it fitted in there and how well it sort of gelled with the rest of the tech stack that you were using.
And good. Of course, like you said, Veriff had a very complex way of doing the analysis of the actual document, the verification process, that we could, in a very smooth way, determine what should be the, what fields do we want, to store internally at Tele2. So we selected some 10 different data points that we also get in the answer from the verification process. For instance, in where the person was located, or what kind of document ID they were using, and then where they're from, their first name, last names, etc. And then also, I mean, like you said, I mean, this process is often under investigation from Swedish police or other authorities. I mean, that they want to have details around. I mean, was this number really registered, or was this number used by some illegal activities, or different kind of things around the prepaid customer in itself. So we also, along with the verification process, we set the business rules. So for instance, one business rule is that you can maximum have 10 numbers. You can be owner of a maximum 10 prepaid subscriptions in Sweden. And then another one was that you needed to be in Sweden to be allowed to register. So these settings could be done in a really smooth way in the tooling itself, I mean, in the verification process tool. So we said that, okay, let's start to allow more things, and then we can narrow it down, I mean, on parameters that we want to steer a little bit harder. So that was also a good thing with the technical solution from Veriff. I mean, we didn't need any developers or coding for doing these changes. So I would say that the smoothness of the full integration was also a big help during the process.
Yeah. I think I hear that quite a lot from customers. Actually, is that obviously you have your own internal systems, your own ways of working, your own sort of ways that levels and appetite towards risk and things like that too, from different industries and that kind of thing. And it seems to be something that is called out a lot. That kind of flexibility of the system, the way that you can kind of personalize it and tailor it to your particular need, I think is it seems to me like a really big selling point of Veriff, and it kind of echoes what you were just saying there, I suppose. I just want to talk a little bit about the sort of the impact, if you like, as well. So kind of what the impact has been since you've been using Veriff. I think that, sadly, I think, telco operators are kind of high risk targets for fraud. It's obviously, I mean, we're talking about the legislation that's come in, and that legislation came in for a reason of that there was a lot of fraud in this space, right? So just talk me through that. What have you seen in terms of the fraud rates and that kind of stuff that you've been working with within your industry?
Already from day one, when we launched, we went from, of course, 0 verifications up to 20%, I mean, immediate. So the distribution now from mobile bank ID and the Veriff solution is 80-20. So then you can imagine that we are onboarding about 50,000 customers, I mean, monthly. So that average, I mean, that about 10,000 customers are approved through the Veriff solution, I mean, monthly. And on the other hand, I would say, and where we are not allowing is, I would say, about 20 to 30%. I mean, and that is, like you said, I mean, due to several different reasons. I mean, it could be that they have the max quote of the prepaids, or that you are, trying to do it with like a verification document that is too old, or that you are trying to fraud the system, and that definitely see immediate deny. But then over the 3 years that I've been using the solution, I would also say that we have seen some kind of fraud behavior, that from time to time there is like an attack from different countries, that we see a fraud behavior from India or Pakistan. And then, of course, we try to detect also what's the reason behind it. But sometimes we are understanding what the purpose is, and sometimes not. So, of course, for telcos with prepaid, some fraudulent behavior is also that they like to, register WhatsApp accounts or a different other kind of accounts that allow them to do other kind of fraud. And that's also something that we are discussing with the police. And so, what can we do to prevent even more of the total fraud in the society? Not only the direct money fraud for ourselves. I mean, it's more the overall behaviors.
Yeah, that's such an interesting point, because I think that, I mean, we see this quite a lot, that it's usually the end goal of fraud is to get to a bank account or to get to some sort of financial, result, I suppose. But the means to get there are sort of very varied. So it could be sort of, accessing people through their social media accounts, or meeting them on dating sites, or, as you say here, sort of connections on WhatsApp and that kind of thing as well, which are maybe the first steps in the chain to eventually getting down to that bank account access, which is maybe the end goal of things. So I think that's a really good point to sort of tease out there, I suppose, as well. And what about on the sort of the customer experience side? Have you had any feedback from customers about the process itself, or I mean, obviously the fraud prevention is one thing, but it needs to be balanced against the smoothness of making it easy for your customers to go through for your legitimate customers to go through the process. So have you had any feedback about the process there, and sort of how it's gone for them?
Yep. Because that was our biggest fear from beginning. I mean, that everyone wanted to go to a store, I mean, to do it with their physical ID, and should not like the online journeys. But it was totally the opposite. I mean, we see only like 5% that goes to a physical store and 95% that are doing it online. And I mean, out now, I mean, on the monthly level, I mean, it's almost zero complaints. I mean, people are liking that it's, both that it's available in multiple languages. I mean, like we said, I mean, almost 12 languages now. Also supporting like Arabic, or not only Swedish and English. I mean, it's now to the languages. And when you see when people are both, I mean, entering their information and taking their self picture and self scan, it goes in a really smooth way. So I would say that the majority of customers are finished within a little bit to 2 minutes, which is really smooth for this kind of total registration flow. So everyone is super happy. You have a really high, NPS score, and when it comes to this, we're calling the journey so we get started. It's super high. I mean, with an NPS of often between 30 or 14. So it's super liked and loved also. So what we saw from the beginning was obviously that when people are buying this kind of packages in the store with the SIM card, we introduced also a lot of QR codes, so you can get online in a really smooth way. Because then you get into the registration flow, and they represent, I mean, either you use the Swedish Bank ID, or you use a Veriff solution for the more verifying your physical ID.
Yeah.
And that's super liked.
That's great to hear. And I think that kind of feedback gives you confidence as well. I think, if you're going to run a marketing campaign, for example, where you think there's going to be an influx of new customers, you now have the confidence to do that, because you know that the onboarding flow is not going to break down and cause problems for people and have them drop out of the process and things like that. So I think there is and sort of an unintended benefit of just giving the business more confidence to sort of help you grow as well, I guess, right? Is that fair to say?
Yes, definitely. And I mean, that has also been the fear, like you said, with the customer operations, with customer service. I mean, that they would get massive amount of calls. I mean, we have some 300 agents working in the customer operations call centers, but I mean, we didn't almost see any traffic when on this legislation came through. I mean, rather the opposite, that people understood it went online and did it. I mean, and very, 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 very smooth. So no of our challenges were actually true.
That's great to hear, and I think that's that's one of the things that we talk about quite a lot with customers too. Is that really you don't want identity verification to be a problem that you have to solve. It's something that we can do for you, whereas that then frees up your teams to do things that add more value to the business, right? So I think it kind of works in a sort of a circular way like that as well. I just wanted to just take a quick look into the future, if you wouldn't mind, and sort of get some of your predictions maybe. But how do you see kind of the digital identity, I mean, especially across the EU, and I know a number of countries that you operate in are very sort of forward-looking when it comes to digital IDs. How do you see that impacting the telco industry, if at all? I mean, do you see something that increasingly we're in this sort of remote-first environment and that kind of thing, and mobile technology is so much more important. Do you think there's an intersection there with digital identity, and how do you think that will play out over the next couple of years?
I mean, it will also go hand in hand for telcos at least with, I mean, leaving your physical SIM card in favor of eSIM. We see more and more of the manufacturers now with the Apple and Samsung and the lead. I mean, that they will go eSIM only, and that also requires even the more smooth process with identity control, and also I would say that because we had the Tele2 and the comic brand, where we are much more digital on the comic side. We are only selling online and we're doing all service online. And we see that would also spill over on the Tele2 brand, where we had more of an older customer base and that prefer more to go to the physical environments. But also here, when we see that we will onboard them with eSIMs, the verification control will be in more of our different, customer journeys and flows. And also we would see that, when offering tourists, for instance, unlimited data or going abroad, you'll, go to Thailand or to the US, and then you want a really fast and smooth roaming product. Then we see that, as a telco with great prices, we can also benefit from having a smooth eSIM onboarding and verification of your ID. So we think we will use the Veriff solution in a lot more different customer journeys going forward.
That's amazing. That's great to hear. Yeah, it's a very there's a strange similarity there with, I think, with what we call the mobility sector that we work very heavily in as well, which is people hiring cars, and quite often that's people on holidays or vacations from different parts of the world. They've come into France, to Spain, wherever it is, and so they don't have a French or Spanish ID, obviously. So it's those sorts of companies really need that, and it sounds like there's a very sort of similarity with you guys as well. Just to wrap up then, the sort of final question: what's kind of on the horizon for Tele2? I think it sounds like some really exciting times with you, with what you mentioned around the different adding in sort of eSIMs and the sort of the 5G rollouts and things like that. But what's kind of next? What do the next couple of years look like for you guys, would you say?
I would say that we have putting a lot of effort in like you said, building the new networks for 5G and the mega connectivities. So I would say that we're also going into a little bit of a new marketing concept, both in Sweden and Baltics. So I would say that we are challenging the number one telco in Sweden. So we're getting closer and closer. So our idea is, of course, to grow the customer base and really make sure that everyone sees that our customers are number one and we are Tele2.
Nice. Like it. It sounds like some very exciting times ahead. And I think that what I'd love to do is, is sort of check in with you again in 6 months or a year or so, just to sort of see how that partnership is growing and how the journey is going for you. Because I think that it's a very fast moving industry, telco, and likewise with the identity piece. I think the two of them, the intersection between the two is so fascinating to me that I'd love to sort of see where we are in a year's time, if that's okay with you, Niklas.
Definitely. You're most welcome.
Sounds good to me. Okay, well, look, I think we can wrap up there, but that's great. Thanks for your time. As I said at the beginning, I know you're incredibly busy, so I really appreciate you taking the time out to talk to us. And thank you, everybody, for listening.
This podcast is brought to you by Veriff. Identity verification made simple. Learn more at veriff.com.